getting out of bed today.
Keep waking up from the previous night. Damn, another day in the life.
Today we're going to be bringing you a review of something I did a lot of research on, looking for a Cintiq alternative, and what I found I think is something better, actually. And that is the Bosto 22U Mini. I'm a fan of Bosto. I previously had, and still have, the Bosto 22 HD, the 2014 model, and really loved the pressure sensitivity and, obviously the price, and really didn't see, if any, a drop-off in quality from a Cintiq, which I've used before, or any of the other alternatives. So right off the bat, I thought I'd go through. I did an unboxing, but I figured I'd cover what's inside the box. And first and foremost is the rechargeable pen up in the left-hand corner, and then below it is the charging cable that comes with it. You have your power supply, you have your USB cable that connects to your PC or laptop to actually control the device. You have a nice braided HDMI cable, a screwdriver to put the stand on in the back and the screws. You have the cable that goes into the brick for the power, and an HDMI to DVI converter for your display. Next to that is a picture of the actual inputs of the display, in following order: the USB, the power adapter, HDMI, DVI, and then finally VGA. On the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the dimensions of the display. You'll see they cut down the footprint of the overall display around the sides, and it's much sleeker and much smaller without wasting so much desk space. Finally, in the last picture is the stand that it comes with. Screws into the back of the unit, and then has a multitude of different positions, which I don't use because I am using mine on an ergotronic arm. Next up is the specs of the unit, which compares very favorably to Cintiq 22 model. Product size is about the same, except the footprint is smaller, like I mentioned. 1920 by 1080, 1080p. This is an HIPS LED lit display, and if you've ever seen the older Bosto LCD displays, this one is much brighter. It's a much better quality. Pressure sensitivity of the display is 2048 levels. Tablet resolution is 5080 LPI. Viewing angles. Pen is cordless and rechargeable, which is something newer for Bosto, at least in this model. The tablet connection is USB 2.0. The tilt stand, obviously you can pause this if you're interested in the specs. I was able to install this on multiple operating systems: Windows 8.1, 64-bit, no problem with the current drivers. Aspect ratio 16:9. Contrast ratio is respectable, 1001. Color gamut is Adobe RGB 72%, which is very good. Color depth 16.7 million colors. This apparently has a different digitizer than the previous Bosto 22 HD and 22 HDX, which is electromagnetic resonance, however you say that. That explains why the pen needs to be recharged now. And I think, owning both the models, that this is actually a more accurate and better digitizer than the previous ones. No tilt on this. Bosto says they are developing that. I don't know if that means it's built into the hardware, or this is a driver thing of some sort, but out of the box there is no tilt. Not that I'd really notice it anyway. Okay, so on to the good stuff. You'll notice after you load your drivers, you have this digitizer panel here, which is in the newer Bosto drivers, and you'll see you kind of get basic settings here. I mean, you do get a little pressure curve here. You can set the active display here. You'll click the pen here, and it knows which screen you're trying to draw on, and it's going to display on. Calibrate. This is really interesting. So, especially coming from a Cintiq and even the older Bosto models, if I hit calibrate here, you'll see this thing has 16 points in their calibration utility, which is that's pretty good. I think Cintiqs are now only up to 4. And the previous Bosto might have been 4 or 8. 4. No, it was 4. So this is this is really a step up as far as getting these things calibrated and minimizing parallax, which I'll talk about in a second. Obviously, you can reset your data here, but I mean, there's not a lot to look at. I did have to set the eraser function on the button. I'll probably, there's not a whole lot of options here, but you do have keyboard keys where you can kind of make up whatever you want. I like to have mine set as zoom, but you could set yours however you like, I guess. Okay, so we're gonna demonstrate how this thing performs. And one of my favorite programs to sketch and draw and also show pressure sensitivity is Sketchbook Pro. Typically, this is one of the programs I have the most problems with picky drivers and showing pressure and this and that. So, and also you could see where the cursor is and the parallax effect. It's very minimal, even though this is a 22-inch display. So you'll see. I mean, I'm drawing real slow. I'm applying pressure. I mean, you could see this thing just has a very, very deep. I mean, that is just beautiful. I mean, if you're drawing cross-hatching or any kind of effects like that, you can really get fine details with this thing. Also, just to do the infamous, I guess, ruler test. This isn't the straightest ruler to begin with, but we'll do it anyway. You can see I'm really getting nice, straight, jitter-free lines. Like I said, the edge of this thing isn't exactly perfect, but you can see I'm not really getting any problems, even if I take it slow. No kind of line quality issues at all. I mean, it's really great. I also retain all the pressure I want in Photoshop. No kinds of line jitter. Slow lines, no problem. And if I move to an inking brush, you can see the pressure is just beautiful. Finally, I tested it in Manga Studio, which is also Clip Studio if you buy the digital version. And the one thing about Manga Studio is with a lot of alternative brands, a lot of times you have a hard time running it in WinTab mode for pressure and have to use Tablet PC, but you'll see I'm using WinTab. There's nothing about it that's fancy. It's using the default pressure curve. So I'm using Friendon's pencils, and he's somebody who's pretty well known for having decent pencil settings in Manga Studio, and you can see, I mean, Manga Studio naturally has these smoothing effects here. You can see I'm sort of hovering over them. Even if I turn off the anti-aliasing, the stabilizing, I turn it down to almost nothing, you'll see I'm still getting great lines. I mean, that level of pressure is just ridiculous. And also with thinking, I mean, in Manga Studio, this tablet just excels. The kind of thick to thin lines that we're talking about here. I mean, I can get cross-hatching that just, it's so thin and so detailed. The last thing I sort of want to talk about is things that plague these kinds of tablets and questions that I would ask and things that I'm sort of sensitive to. One of them is parallax, I mentioned before. I don't know that the camera can really pick this up, but the parallax effect, you can still tell there's a distance between the glass and the pen, but it's nowhere near as pronounced as on some of the, even the latest Cintiq models or competitors like Unova and things like that I've used, which are good. I've used the Huion displays, which I thought were pretty terrible, and driver issues and such. And I've also used the monoprice tablets, which, I mean, they're total garbage. I don't know if it's software or whatever, but they're just not good. But the funny thing to me is drawing on this particular display. If you've ever drawn on like a Microsoft Surface tablet, where the digitizer is fused to the screen, and you get much more of a much better pen response. I'm getting a pen response closer to that, but with the pressure levels of like a Cintiq, which is kind of the best of both worlds, right? I mean, if you look at what my cursor is, the camera should pick this up, and I'm not really applying much pressure, but the cursor, as opposed to a Cintiq, stays right with the pen. I mean, I'm really moving here, and I'm not losing that cursor at all, and that makes all the difference in the world. If you look even in the promotional videos, I had been searching for the Cintiq and looking into getting the new 27-inch version, and even in their like promo stuff, their promo videos, you could see like the artist painting and the cursor like lagging way behind, like not keeping up with the artist. And I mean, that's their promo stuff, right? If it's like that in there, what's it like, real world? And you read their forums, and they're having all kinds of issues and this and that, and then you look at a company like Bosto, who after a couple generations is now really starting to come into their own and get it together with getting I wouldn't even say alternatives at this point, but really getting their foot into the market with great products. So not only would I recommend this to any artist, really, illustrator or what have you, but I would also say that I might recommend it over Cintiq. I mean, that's pretty terrible, but I think you kind of get the idea. I'm trying to demonstrate that you could actually use this to draw something instead of just show a bunch of lines on the screen. But anyways, I mean, you clearly see, that's why I wanted to set up the camera, because sometimes when I see videos of people drawing and it's either the camera view and you don't get a sense of the pressure, or with a combination of both, you could really see. This particular device, I think, goes for $649 American dollars new, free shipping, all that kind of stuff. And surprisingly, it ships from their factory and was literally at my door, and I want to say about 5 days, maybe less than that. It was over a weekend, so that added a couple days to it, but still was here in about 5 days, and I was drawn on it. And one of the other things that concerns people, and I hear in some reviews, is these nightmare driver setups and firmware updates and all this other stuff. And I just had to get the newest driver. I didn't even open the packaging or anything like that, and I'm using the DVI with a standard video card in here, and I just loaded the driver up. You could see in the demo that I showed, I didn't play with the pressure curve at all, and you can see even as I'm drawing now, I mean, when I want to sketch for, light lines, I mean, I get that. And then when I want to really get in there and get dark, I mean, it's just as simple as that. So, I'd really recommend it. It's a good buy. Bosto is a company on its way up, I think, and if I was Wacom, I'd be really worried about seeing products like this at this price point perform the way they do. The support has been great, whether it's through, Bosto themselves or the various enthusiast forums out there and support groups for Bosto. And I'd really recommend it. I mean, I've tested Unova, I've tested various different brands, and by far this model 22 Mini U is by far the best tablet experience I've ever had. Thanks for watching. See you soon.
Damn.